Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's do a reverse dyed burst shirt. I have the shirt turned inside out and I'm going to begin by centering the shirt. So this process is going to go really fast, but down below in the description for this video, I have a link to another video which shows how to center a shirt. Essentially what I'm doing is getting both sides of the front of the shirt next to each other and both sides of the back of the shirt next to each other. That way, whatever I do to the shirt, whether it's the reverse dye process or whether it is applying dye, both sides of the front of the shirt are going to look more similar and symmetrical, and the same thing goes for the back. So in other words, I'm not going to have one half of the front of the shirt that is maybe a little lighter or darker than the other half of the front of the shirt. Same thing goes for the back. By the way, this shirt is a blue color, just a little bit lighter than a navy blue. I don't really remember what the color of the shirt was called. Okay, so now that the shirt is centered, I'm going to fold the burst pattern on the shirt. So to do that, I'm going to fold the hem of the shirt up past the neck of the shirt. I want the burst to be just a little bit above the center of the shirt. So from here, I'm going to use a piece of just plain white chalk, and I found a circle that's about the size that I want. This happens to be my masking tape that I use to label my bottles with. I'm going to place that on the corner of the shirt, and I'm using a straight edge to measure to see if I have about 1/4 of this corner covered. That should make a fairly good circle on the shirt. Then I'm marking this area with my chalk, and I'm going to fan fold this line. This isn't the only way that you can draw a burst pattern onto the shirt. I could have just left the shirt without folding the hem up to the top of the shirt, and then I could have drawn on half of a circle. I've made bursts that way many times. I just thought I would try it this way this time. They both work really well, so one method isn't necessarily superior to the other. Then, because I'm going to do a color removal process on this shirt, I'm going to tie the line with some sinew. Sinew is wax coated, so when I tie the line with sinew and I tighten the sinew down as tightly as I can get it on the shirt, that won't allow the color remover down underneath this line. It also won't allow any dye underneath this line, so everywhere where I place a sinew line, that area should remain navy blue. Going in toward the center of the burst, I'm going to make some other lines in the shirt. I want to make them closer as I get out toward the very center of the burst. Then instead of cutting the sinew off in that area, I'm going to wind it back to my original line and continue tying the sinew without cutting it. I'm going to leave this shirt tied throughout the entire color removal process, washing it in the washing machine and soaking it in soda ash. So I'm going to leave it tied until I'm totally finished with the shirt. If I went ahead and cut the sinew off down at the very end, it probably would have unraveled, so I want to go ahead and leave it as one long piece of sinew. I'm going to continue my fan folds on the other side of the initial line, and when I tie sinew lines going on this side of the shirt, I'm going to start making them further apart. So essentially what I want to happen is I want the lines to get closer as I get in toward the very center of the burst. To hold my folds in place, I'm going to use a couple of rubber bands just until I can get the sinew tied around the shirt. My roll of sinew got barely nicked with a knife, and so it is kind of unraveling in a few areas. So every now and then you're going to see me stop and have to mess with the sinew. It doesn't affect the way the sinew works on the shirt though. This sinew is made up of multiple strands, and it was really only about one strand that got nicked or cut. So it's that one strand that I'm having to pull out. The rest of the sinew is intact and it works perfectly fine. So I don't really want to throw it away. I'm going to go ahead and keep using it. Okay, so for the color removal process, I'm going to use a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener. I purchased mine at Walmart in the laundry aisle, but if you can't find any at your store or you don't have it available at a department store near you, I have a link down below in the description for this video for where you can purchase some from Amazon. I'm going to remove the color from quite a few different shirts all at the same time. So I've placed a plastic container outside because I like to use this product out where I can get good ventilation. It does have a smell, so I don't really like to use it inside. This particular shirt is the one at the bottom of the container. It's also kind of starting to gently rain, so you'll see a few raindrops here and there. I'm going to sprinkle the shirts liberally with the Out White Brite. And for this entire process, I'm wearing my respirator because I don't want to smell the fumes or inhale any of the powder. Then I'm going to pour boiling hot water over the top of all of the shirts. And as you can see, the minute the water hits the Out White Brite, it starts to foam and instantly remove the color. I came back and added a little bit more Out White Brite to the top of the shirts and poured some more boiling hot water on top. I wanted to make sure all the shirts were fully submerged. I've sped the video up quite a bit, but I left the shirts for about 10 minutes in the Out White Brite solution. I didn't record the entire process because it was starting to rain a little bit harder and I didn't want to leave my camera out in the rain. After removing the color with the Out White Brite, I took the shirts into my utility sink and I rinsed them in cold water. Remember, I left them tied for the entire process. Then I put the shirts into my washing machine and washed them using a hot water cycle. Then I soaked the shirts in a soda ash solution for at least 20 minutes and wrung them out of my Panda spin dryer. Okay, so you can see that after the color removal process, the shirt is kind of like a light gray color. I'm going to incline ice dye this shirt, so I've placed it down inside of a piece of vinyl guttering, and then to avoid the shirt sliding all the way down to the very end, I'm tying a piece of kite string around the top of the shirt and using a metal clip to attach it to the very end of the guttering. Okay, so I thought a variety of different shades of purple would look really good with the blue lines on this shirt. I'm applying a different shade to each one of the sinew spaces on the shirt. I'm beginning with Blue Violet from Dharma, Plum from Pro Chemical and Dye, Lilac from Dharma, Red Violet from Dharma, True Violet from Grateful Dyes, Orchid from Dharma, and True Purple from Grateful Dyes. If you missed any of those colors, I have them listed below in the description. I'm going to end up repeating the colors until all of the sinew spaces are filled. So if you watch a lot of my videos, you probably know that I really enjoy incline ice dyeing. I think that the dye movement on the shirt gives a really cool effect to the shirt. And I think vinyl guttering is a great tool to use to incline dye. You can use anything, and the incline doesn't have to be really a steep incline either. Even a small incline will give a lot of dye movement on the shirt. But I really enjoy using the vinyl guttering for a couple reasons. The first reason is that it's sturdy. I can incline it and it's not going to bend or fold or come apart. That's really nice. The second reason is it kind of has its own built-in ice barrier. The sides of the guttering are deep enough that usually it'll keep the ice on the shirt really well. And the third reason is it cleans up so nicely. I just stick it in the sink, use a little bit of dish soap, and allow it to dry, and I've reused these pieces of guttering multiple times. The fourth reason is that the dye or the soda ash don't affect the vinyl guttering, so it's not going to cause holes in the guttering or cause the guttering to leak. That's a real big plus. As you've heard me say many times, the soda ash affects aluminum, so if you use aluminum foil or aluminum pans, the soda ash over time will cause small, minute holes in the foil, and they will eventually begin to leak. I do use foil occasionally, but I always put it down inside of another container. So for now, I just have the vinyl guttering flat on my table. I'll incline it in just a few minutes after I get the dye and the ice on top. Okay, so now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye and then layer on the ice. I like to add a little bit of additional ice up at the very top. That area is really small and I want to make sure that it gets plenty of liquid flowing through it. It's also tied kind of tightly because the lines are close together. To incline the shirt, I'm going to use a plastic tote or container that has pretty large sides. And I'm going to place one end of the vinyl guttering down in the bottom of the container and leave the other end hanging off the side. This is going to put the shirt at probably about a 40 to 45 degree incline. Like I said, it doesn't have to be this steep of an incline. Pretty much any incline is going to give you an effect on the shirt. I'm going to loosen up the piece of string that I've tied onto the end of the shirt and allow the shirt to slide down just a little bit. Then I'm going to touch up the ice and put the shirt aside and allow the ice to melt. After the first layer of ice melted, I came back and added a second layer of ice to the shirt. Normally, I would leave the shirt for about 24 hours after the second layer of ice melted. However, I went out of town for a few days, and so this one sat for about 5 or 6 days before I rinsed it. So this is what both sides of the shirt looked like before I started rinsing it. And to rinse it, I started rinsing in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the shirt and rinsed in hot water to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I went ahead and soaked this shirt to get out the excess dye, and I did that by running some hot water in my utility sink adding a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, and just allowing the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued that soaking process until the water was almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's textile detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. Then after the shirt was washed and dried, this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? So I really like this shirt. I think it turned out looking really cool. I like the design where the lines get larger as they get further away from the center of the burst. The circle though gets a little misshapen the further it gets away from the very middle part. But I don't mind that. I think it kind of looks cool. I like the blue and the purple color combination together too. However, some of my purples are a little close in color, so you can't tell I used quite as many different colors of purple as I did. But I like some of the red colors that have come out of the purples. I think that looks really cool. And I like the dye movement on the shirt. I didn't get the big, huge, long streaks of dye movement, and the reason for that is because I had the shirt tied with sinew. If the shirt was tied with kite string, you would see those lines that went from the center of the burst all the way down the shirt. But tying sinew lines in the shirt kind of stops a little bit of the dye movement. But I did still get some dye movement on the shirt, just not the big long lines. So I personally really love this shirt. I think it's really pretty. I like the purple and the blue together, and I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. And if you have enjoyed watching this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.